Treasurer, a very treasured position, by the way, Justin Gish.
Thank you, Lawrence. Good evening, everybody, fellow Toastmasters. Well, just to recap this agenda, just to make sure this is clear. So, I'm Justin Gish, and I'm the Toastmaster. The grammarian is being handled by Cheyenne. Lawrence is our first speaker. Susan is handling general evaluator. Diego's the first evaluator. He'll be evaluating Lawrence. Tom is handling our timing. Sandra is counter. And Lawrence, are you doing a VP of Education at the end? You're already speaking, so maybe that's covered. Oh, and John, I missed you. John, you're handling the table topics.
I will certainly give it my best.
Great, okay.
You can't lose.
I don't know.
So let's run through these roles, and we don't have guests tonight, but let's stick with the agenda there. And let's start with Susan. Susan, could you explain the general evaluator?
Toward the end of the meeting, the general evaluator just gives an assessment of the way the meeting ran, different points of order of the meeting, and just an overall description of how everything went for the evening.
Okay. And Cheyenne, could you explain the grammarian role for us?
The grammarian will keep track of grammar and words that do not belong in speech.
Okay.
Definitions.
Oh, and yes, actually the definitions on the other side, if you want to provide the word today.
The word of the day is banjax, and it means to destroy, ruin, damage, or thwart. An example is lucky might get going all of a sudden, then we'd be banjaxed.
I hadn't heard that one before, but it's interesting.
Here's an easier one. My year was banjaxed. Her career was irrevocably damaged.
That should be a good one to work into speeches.
Yeah, banjax.
And Tom is the timer tonight. Tom, could you explain the timer role?
We will time 3 portions of the meeting. Lawrence's speech will be timed. His speech is 8 to 10 minutes. You have the green card at 8 minutes, the yellow card at 9 minutes, and the red card at 10.
Fancy.
Evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes, with the green at 2, yellow at 2.5, red at 3. Table topics are 1 to 2 minutes, green at 1, yellow at 1.5, red at 2. General evaluator, is that a 2 to 3 minute, or do we allow more time for general evaluator?
We didn't put a time on the GE.
Okay, that's fine.
I guess we could do that, but we haven't yet.
It's club choice.
I would say a 2 to 3.
I'm in agreement.
Yeah, let's take the same as the regular evaluation. Okay, let's see. Who am I missing here? John, would you like to explain the role as table topics master?
What I'll generally do is come up with a topic and ask for volunteers and allow them the opportunity to come up and elaborate on that specific topic or subject.
All right, one of the best parts of the meeting. And Sandra, could you explain the counter role?
What is our counter? Just what it says, our counter. I will be counting the number of ahs, filler words like and, that the speaker will say during that speech.
Okay, thank you. So Lawrence is our first speaker tonight. I understand that he's got a great speech that he's spent a lot of time preparing for us about crossing the Atlantic Ocean. It's a topic I'm very interested in. I'm excited to hear his speech. Please welcome Lawrence.
There are many wonderful things that can happen in our lives. Some people really look forward to the opportunity of going to their favorite football game and really enjoying watching the gorillas on the field fighting with each other over a piece of pigskin. that's filled with air, of course. Other people, they really enjoy simple things like going out and dancing in the evening or many other activities. But me, my fellow Toastmasters, I enjoy being on the water. When I was 10 years old, I went deep sea fishing with my grandfather. At that point, I decided that I really liked being on the water. And I wanted to do something on the water. Well, many years later, I kind of forgot about that a little bit, but I did try. I went to college for one semester and realized that I was never going to be a marine biologist. It just wasn't going to happen. So I just started to do other things. It was a few years after I started hitchhiking around the country that I found an opportunity to come to Alabama and go commercial fishing. So I came down here and got on a shrimp boat, figured I'd work for a season, make some money, and then continue my hoboing around the country. Well, I got hooked. 40 years later, I'm still living in Lower Alabama. I've had the opportunity to do many things on the water. One of which was to cross the Atlantic Ocean on a merchant ship. The ship that I was on was actually working for the Air Force. We were carrying cargo from Norfolk, Virginia to the Azores Islands. Now, on the Azores Islands, they have an air base, which is where they refuel a lot of the larger planes that are going to the Middle East and beyond. Because they can't make it all the way from the U.S. to the Middle East without stopping, and so they have to find a refueling point. And so we were the ones that were supplying them with many of their needs that had to come from America. It's a really interesting thing. Now, some of you may know or have heard of what is called a Great Circle route. If you look on the standard map that most people see, it's a flat square map. Well, the Earth is not a flat square, no matter what some people think. It is a obloid sphere, is what it is. It's not quite a perfect circle. It's a little bit fatter at the equator than it, but it's not enough to make a difference. But what they do in a Mercator map is they take where all the poles fit together and they stretch them out so that they can have these nice straight lines. Now, if you use that and you draw a straight line across it and try to follow that straight line, you're actually using a lot more time and a lot more fuel than if you draw a line on there that's a curve, because the Earth is curved. And if you take an orange apart and you see how each section of the orange has that curve on it, well, if you went straight across that orange, it would take you a long time. If you follow that curve, it doesn't. So we're supposed to take a Great Circle route from the United States to the Azores Islands. But there's one small problem there. Weather. The weather conditions in certain parts of the world are not really that nice. Many of you may have heard of the Roaring Forties. The Roaring Forties is an area of the Atlantic Ocean where the cold northern currents and the warm Gulf Stream come together and travel across the Atlantic where they spread out again and go in their various different directions. Well, that combination of the cold water and the warm water mixing together creates a lot of weather patterns that can be very bad. So what we do when we go from Norfolk to the Azores is we do a modified Great Circle. So we do the Great Circle up to the 38th parallel, we'd follow the 38th parallel along, and then we'd go down the Great Circle to the other side of the Azores, which is kind of, for those of you that don't know, is a little bit northwest of the hump at the top of Africa. It's a little bit below Gibraltar, so it's not really going into the Med. It's Portuguese, by the way. So that's what we do to avoid the roaring 40s. But, as you may have guessed in weather patterns don't necessarily always follow the rules. They have their own rules. So, one point we were coming across and we started hitting some fairly bad weather. Now, this is a small ship. This was only about 450-foot ship. Okay, pretty small. The biggest ship I've been on is about a 1,000-foot ore carrier in the Great Lakes. But 450 foot, that's a pretty substantial boat, but it's small for ocean-going ships. But we were going through, and this squall, this storm came through, and we were getting tossed pretty badly. If you see the old thing, you know, the weather started getting rough, the tiny ship was tossed. Well, that's about how it felt, because we were getting slammed all over the place. I mean, literally slammed all over the place. Now, the interesting thing that a lot of people don't think about, steel is flexible. It is made to be flexible. So as we were sailing through this horrible storm, you could be in the wheelhouse, and you would be leaning over in the wheelhouse this way, and you'd look, and the bow of the ship is leaning over in the opposite direction. And it's just, the boat is just back and forth, and twisting and bending, and going up and down. And then the most amazing thing started to happen. The cupboards started falling off the walls. We were getting slammed so hard that the cupboards were falling off the walls. But it's quite interesting when you're in a situation like that. There is so much energy that you can't really, I can't describe it. Like this upflow of energy from the ocean. And it's exhilarating. It's not scary to me. It's exhilarating. Wow, this is exciting. You know, this is really great. And that's probably the adrenaline rush that all these people that skydive and bungee jump off of the tallest building in the world, and all of those kind of people, that must be what they feel. Because it was just such an exhilarating thing. But Mother Nature was nice. She let us get through, and then we just eased on into our normal pattern. And for the next couple of days, whenever we needed to get groceries, we just would pick them up off the floor, and everything was fine. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Right, thank you, Lawrence. That was great. I've always wanted to do an ocean voyage like that. I've never been out in the water for more than maybe a day or so at a time. That must have been a great experience. So we'll move on to the table topics portion of the meeting, and John Murphy is going to handle the table topics for us.
That was a pretty exciting description of traveling across the ocean seas. I must say, my experience is going deep sea fishing and begging to be thrown overboard as chum.
I've heard that story before, too.
Yeah. What I'm here to talk about today, or the topic actually, would be space travel. So I need a volunteer to talk about space travel.
I volunteer.
Right, Diego. If you would step forward and pick a card for me, please. Your method of space travel is with a space kite, which is relatively slow. You have 2 passengers with you, but it does have a hibernation module. There you go.
Why did you pick that?
Mode of travel.
My fellow Toastmasters, since I'm very interested in space travel, I chose to select a space kite with two of my best friends on this blue marble that we are fortunate to live on. And I have access to a hibernation suite in times of monotony, which is probably very frequent since our galaxy is measured in units of light years, and light has a lot of distance to travel in a year. And a year goes by really, really slowly if you're very bored. And in my view, I think travel across space is very boring unless you have frequent engagement with good friends of yours or a good book to read. But there will be times I feel that enough conversation topics will be covered amongst me and my two best friends on the space kite journey that I'm going across the planet. And so I want to take full advantage of the hibernation module, because I think a big sign of me being an adult now, or at least trying to be an adult, an adolescent, is that I find sleep to be very sacred. And so I think I will be enjoying the hibernation module of this space kite with my two friends for a majority of the travel that I will be doing this space galaxy travel. Hopefully our space vessel will not be too vulnerable to asteroids, and I sure hope that our space vessel will not be banjaxed to the same degree as the mariner who spoke before me faced on the Atlantic currents. With that said, I return the lectern back to the tabletop master.
This is an interesting opportunity for me to step inside of your mind here, how it works. So you've elected to travel through space, and now you are arriving at your destination. So who would like to step forward and talk about the challenges at your destination?
Is it tough?
First one up here wins. Don't raise your hands at the same time.
Don't put all at once.
All right, let's pick a card here.
Oh, okay. I was just about to.
I thought that was
It's
it.
trickier than that.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one. All right.
Water.
So this destination has a liquid surface.
Okay, liquid surface.
It has exotic life forms.
Okay.
It's great fishing though.
All right.
There's a possibility that you could be eaten. And there's creatures called water ants.
Water eats. Okay. Okay. I assume that's made up.
Based on actual events.
Oh, basically.
I've been there.
Okay. Water is. Okay. Fellow Toastmasters and fellow Toastmasters, I've reached the destination of space travel. And upon the landing of the vessel and me getting out of the vessel, I encountered different things and creatures and other things. And I'm looking like, what is that? What is that? Oh, I definitely got to stay away from that. It does look like an interesting place, and I'm pretty sure it's a nice place to visit for a few seconds, and then you want to get out rather quickly. But since I'm on my space journey and I'm here or there on that space journey, first I just have to avoid being banjaxed by the creatures that are able to eat me. And then I have to choose, because I don't know, this is the first time I've been to this destination, choose which creatures are friendly, or could be friendly, or could be negotiated with. And with that, we'll move on to the next phase of the journey, Mr. Topic Master.
Space kite is merely one method of traveling through space, obviously. There are other choices. Who would like to step forth and talk about another method of traveling through space? Yes, ma'am.
I can do that.
All right. This is a space cruiser. You are traveling on first class. It's very fast. And it's an all-day entertainment. All right. Good luck.
Wine, please. Wow, this is fun. Wow, look out there. Look at all of these stars. I didn't know all this was up here. Wine, please. Are you having fun, buddy? This is awesome. Look at that fly by the window. Oh my, space is fun. I didn't know it was going to be this exciting. Wow. Wine, please. You think it's me? Or do you think all that stuff out there, is it real? I don't know. I've had 3 glasses of wine already. One more. Wine, please. It's going so fast. They're very scary. You see that? Look. Wow. I am appalled with all these different animals. Look. What is that? It's going so fast. Where are we now? I'm getting scared now. The wine may be kicking in. I might not get any more wine, miss. Look at that. We are back on Earth.
4 glasses of wine in 60 seconds. I'm looking. Sure hope you didn't feel banjax stuff.
I forgot about that. I was fantastic.
Well, actually, you were hallucinating because you're not back on Earth. Apparently, there's a destination ahead of you that you might want to step up here and talk about.
Oh goodness. Can I keep this? There's a lot of words on it.
Sure.
Hello, fellow Toastmasters. Just wanted to say that I feel lied to about this trip. I was told that we were going to see the MTV flag. I have not seen it. MTV used to be a music channel, in case you didn't know. But while we were here, we've seen a few neat things. We have explored some space caves, although we had to exit quickly due to the unidentifiable animals in the cave. We visited some hot spas, although they were boiling, so we were advised to just look, or else be banjaxed. There is a forest on this planet that we are visiting, although it is a rocky forest, not a tree forest that you think of on our planet. And yeah, so although I did not get to see the MTV flag, I did get to see lots of other neat sights.
I didn't know what that word was.
Me either.
What word are we looking at? Oh, that's the name of the planet, Wyoming.
Oh, okay.
Cheyenne.
Yeah, that's what I was
Diane
thinking.
from Wyoming. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
We actually
Yes,
have
that
3
one.
other methods of space travel that are available for your traveling pleasure. Would anyone like to step up and talk about it?
There's only 2 of us left.
Susan?
3 of us left.
Goodness, what have I gotten myself into?
The traveling trip, apparently. All right, you are now in a ion rocket. First and second class. It's very fast. And there's some entertainment on board. Good luck.
Being more of a liberal arts major, I can't really speak definitively about ion. I've heard of ion particles, I've heard of eons, and it probably will take eons to get wherever it is that we're going here. Remind me, first and second class? Well, probably I was only able to afford the second class section of this rocket. It's just the longest trip I've ever taken. We've heard earlier, we heard many descriptions of strange and wonderful things out in the universe. Probably it reminds me of the movie called, the one with Jennifer Lawrence, and if anybody remembers that movie, where they hibernated for a period of time. They were supposed to have been out in space for 100 years or so, and something malfunctioned in one of the hibernation tubes, and the man woke up. And so I feel like probably we would have had a period of time where we would have hibernated, because I'm sure if we're talking about ions and whatnot, it would have taken eons to get to where we're going. I think that's pretty much it.
Now an eon has gone by and you have reached your destination. Would anyone like to come up and talk about this destination?
Would you like me to be timer for you?
If you would, please.
You have just arrived on Amazonas. It is full of forests, there's hunting, air fishing, there's leech spas.
Okay. I thought that said Amazon US. So I'm lucky here, but Amazonas is a very unusual planet in that it has these forests and air fishing, air hunting,
Air fishing.
and leech spas. The leech spas were the ones that really kind of intrigued me, but I got hung up on the word leech, and I thought, man, I don't want to be banjaxed on this trip so that I won't be able to finish it. So I did avoid the leech spas, even though I do like spas, and concentrated on the forest. I decided to go into the forest, very tall trees, as you might expect from something called Amazon, or Amazonas. But very green and very lush, and it was very pleasant, almost like a Garden of Eden. It was one of the most pleasant experiences I think I've ever had in my life. I couldn't get out of the back of my mind the leech spas and how really terrifying they appeared to be. But then somebody told me that they really weren't bad at all, that you should go ahead and take advantage of the leech spas. And it reminded me of this place in the airport in Cancun, Mexico, where they have a foot spa where you take your socks and shoes off, you put it in, then they've got these little fish that come around and just take all the calluses off your feet, and this is what the sleep spa really turned out to be. It was quite pleasant. It's true. In Cancun, Mexico, that's what they have, so. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Bookworms on your
Time.
TV.
7:32.
So we have time for one more now.
No, I don't think so. It's time for evaluations and stuff.
Yeah, we got, that includes my stint as tabletop masters.
Thank you. Good to have some variety in that rather than just picking from that list that we get from the internet with all the generic kind of questions. So thanks for putting some effort into that, John, and doing something outside the box. So we'll move on to the evaluation portion of our meeting here, and Susan Murphy is going to be the general evaluator handling that for us.
I'm gonna bring my notes up with me here.
Thanks, Susan.
Toastmasters, no guests. I was very happy to be asked to be general evaluator. This is my first time to be a general evaluator. I have evaluated speeches, but tonight I get an opportunity to talk about the notes that I've taken. So tonight we've got a little bit of a rough start in that we had to take a brief pause before we actually got started to come up with the agenda. But after that, things have gone full blast, literally, with table topics. We've been talking about rockets and whatnot. Maurice had some new business, that's always good, about a club success plan. We hope that our club is successful, so we appreciate all that Maurice does in the way of promoting the club and trying to make it better. We are, as Justin said, we're coming up on a new season here for dues. It's getting ready to start, so we need to pay our dues. And we're happy to say that the pins have arrived for our new members. And I'm not sure who a new member is in the room, but if you are a new member, then you ought to be very pleased that you're going to be getting your pins soon. Lawrence introduced, no, sorry about that. We have had good overall persons as different parts of the, to keep the meeting rolling along, education, the grammarian, timer, and all of that, as we usually do. The word of the day was kind of interesting. I've never heard that word before, so, and many of you used it in your speeches, so that was good. I especially enjoyed Diego's take on being bored at light speed. That was interesting. It was a very creative way that Sandra presented her talk tonight. It was very entertaining, and she was acting it out. All in all, it's been a great meeting again. Nice attendance tonight, and we just look forward to having more people at the meetings and hopefully getting more folks to join the club.
Oh, so you need to introduce Diego, and then we'll go through the.
All right.
So you're gonna run that whole portion of it.
Okay, now you have to just go down the list here. So now you're the general evaluator. You're going to introduce the first evaluator, then the timer, then the eye counter, then the grammarian, and then you close out and return it back to the Toastmaster.
Okay.
Yes.
So our evaluator for this evening's one and only speech was Diego, so I'm going to ask him to come up now and give his evaluation.
This is General Evaluator. Fellow Toastmasters and guests in spirit, I had the great pleasure of evaluating Lawrence's speech again. A lot of great habits that I'm seeing that definitely need to be repeated in future speeches. For example, I really enjoyed your use of pauses today. I think the most exemplary example of this was when you said steel is flexible. And that unto itself really encapsulated the level of danger you found yourself in the Roaring 40s space on our globe. That also dovetails nicely with your variety in speech speed that I noticed. Because, as you said, steel is flexible. Immediately, in order to indicate the level of energy that you were feeling at that time, I noticed your speech speed increased. But then once you overcame the heavy and intense weathers, you returned back to a more calm speed by saying nature was nice. So it's really good to see some speech speed variety. I think one area of improvement, again, that I want to bring up to you is more audience engagement. A simple question to the audience as you go into your speech could be, for example, how do you feel about the ocean? What are some stories that you associate with the ocean? Well, this is my experience with the ocean. This is what brought me to be a mariner. I think, again, a good complement of you engaging in speech speed variety was your vocal variety again. I noticed at the beginning of the speech, you kind of shrunk your presence on the stage and spoke in whispers in order to draw the audience in. And then your volume increased in order to match the Roaring 40s, for example, and then you calmed back down with your voice with Nature Was Nice again. So a good variety all around keeps the speech to be very engaging with the audience. I think another area that I really liked was your use of humor. You got a lot of chuckles out of the audience, and clearly your sense of humor really resonates with the audience, and that's a really great habit to see. I also liked how you moved out of the lectern. I noticed the majority of your time was spent on the right-hand side of the lectern, so it might be a good opportunity for you to also try to give equal attention to the left-hand side of the lectern. And then finally, I want to wrap up with a good use of eye contact variety. I liked how, again, you did a good job of giving a nice sweep across the room, but then also individually focusing on one particular individual on the left-hand side of the podium, of the lectern, and then also on the right-hand side of the lectern. So again, Lawrence, I really enjoyed evaluating your speech. Really great habits that you're exercising, and I'm looking forward to the next speech you give. I'm going to turn it back to the general evaluator now.
Thank you, Diego. That was a very, very nice evaluation. Very thorough. Really good. Kudos. The next person will speak will be our timer, Tom Hageman, with his report.
From here, okay?
Yes, it's fine.
Lawrence's speech was 8 to 10 minutes. He spoke for 8 minutes and 59 seconds, which was excellent. Diego, in his evaluation of 2 to 3 minutes, went 3:04. Normally, you're allowed 30 seconds either way, so you're still good there. Susan, your first part of your evaluation, you went 2 minutes and 30 seconds. When we do the last part, I'll finish that up, and you're allowed 2 to 3 minutes. Table topics, Diego a minute 49, Maurice a minute 48, Sandra a minute 35, Cheyenne 1 minute exactly, Susan 1:37, and I went 1:22. Everybody was well within limits.
Great, thank you so much, Tom. The next report, we'll hear from the all counter, Sandra.
Oh, okay. Lawrence, you had 2 whales and a couple of nouns that I wasn't sure if it went into the speech or not. You had 3 R's and a couple of repeated BB, they, and 1 N. Diego, you had 2 R's and 1 N, and as evaluator, you had a couple of repeations, which was a lot of great. You repeated in the Roaring 40s, and you repeated again. Maurice, you repeated on that. And Susan, table topics, you had 2 R's, and as general evaluator, which was still going, you had so far 5 R's and 2 M's.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. It'll only make us better, right? Next, we'll have a report from the grammarian, Cheyenne.
So I didn't have any grammatical errors, but during the table topics, Diego Maurice, myself, and Tom use the word of the day. And
Thank you very much, Cheyenne. Next, we're going to get into the education overview, aren't we?
Got 3 minutes
Someone-
left.
I don't think we have time for an educational overview this evening.
All right, well, because we have no time left, I will now turn the lectern back over to our Toastmaster, Justin.
Well, without an education overview, then I'm going to turn the lectern over to our acting president, Maurice, to conclude the meeting.
That is me.
Oh, Lawrence.
Well, I'm glad that after Susan turned the lectern over, that you turned it back over. So now we have it back where it's supposed to be upright. Is there anyone here who is new that has not received a Toastmasters pin? You've joined already, right? Did you get a Toastmasters pin? Mm-hmm. But you didn't. All right. Cheyenne, we would like to present you with a Toastmasters pin. Welcome to Toastmasters.
thank you.
Is there anything else that anyone has to present to the club before we close this meeting? One thing I would like to ask, and then we'll get to you, I'm sorry. One thing I would like to ask, I need someone to interview me for one of my advanced leadership or advanced communication programs. You've done it already. If you want to do it again, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
And I'll make arrangements with you to do that at some point whenever we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
Ms. Cheyenne, did you have something?
I just have a question, but I can ask after if it will fit better. I started the pathways, and I just had a question about the icebreakers, just a little bit of guidance for that speech.
Okay, do you have a mentor?
I don't know.
Okay, that means no. All right, so we have to create mentors. That's something that we really need to do. And so anyone who is there anyone who would like to be Cheyenne's mentor?
I volunteer.
Has not been, okay. And you've got, how many speeches have you done?
I've done more than 3.
Okay, so he is going to be your mentor, and I will also help you out, so I have no worries there. If there is nothing else, I would like to end this meeting. Oh, yes, sir.
Are we going to assign speaker, are we going to assign roles for the agenda, or do we not have the energy to do that today?
We are overtime, so we're going to, if anyone wants to have a position, they are still open. Just go in, put your name in there, and it will come up. I will approve it, and it will be what it be.
Yes.
Going once, going twice, close.